It's 2 in the morning somewhere along Interstate 80 in Wyoming. The wind outside is pushing 40 miles per hour, and the temperature has dropped to 18 degrees. In the parking lot of a Flying J truck stop near Cheyenne, somewhere between 100 and 150 semi-trucks are parked side by side in long, organized rows. Their engines are off, their lights are dark, and inside almost every single one of them, a person is sleeping. Not in a hotel, not in a motel, not in a room with a TV remote on the nightstand and a minibar they'll definitely raid. They're sleeping in a space barely larger than a walk-in closet, suspended above the pavement in a steel cab, 18 wheels beneath them, anywhere from 20 to 40,000 pounds of cargo somewhere behind them in the trailer. And most of them will tell you they prefer it that way. Here's what most people never realize. The image most of us carry in our heads when we think about truck drivers is completely wrong. We imagine someone exhausted and uncomfortable, making the best of a rough situation. We imagine them wishing they were in a real bed. But the reality is far more interesting and far more intentional than that. Most long-haul truck drivers in the United States don't sleep in hotels because a sleeper cab isn't a compromise. For the experienced driver, it's a carefully engineered, personally customized, legally regulated private space that they've spent months, sometimes years, making into exactly the home they need it to be. Understanding why requires understanding how completely different the world of an over-the-road driver is from what the rest of us experience during a normal day. Start with the basics. Federal law in the United States, specifically the hours of service regulations enforced by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, dictates with remarkable precision how many hours a commercial truck driver can be behind the wheel before they are legally required to stop. A driver can operate for a maximum of 11 hours after at least 10 consecutive hours off duty. All of that driving must happen within a 14-hour on-duty window that begins the moment they start any work-related activity that day. After 8 cumulative hours of driving, a mandatory 30-minute break is required. After 60 or 70 hours behind the wheel, spread across 7 or 8 consecutive days, they must take a 34-hour full reset. These aren't guidelines, they're federal law. And since December 2017, every qualifying commercial driver in the country has been required to track this automatically using an electronic logging device. A small computer hardwired into the truck that records every minute of their activity eliminates the possibility of fudging a paper log and can be inspected by law enforcement at any time. This is the first reason hotels don't work. Not the cost, not the preference, the regulation. When a driver's 14-hour clock expires, it doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter if they're parked near a Holiday Inn or a Hilton. The clock decides. They stop. They rest. And in most cases, that stopping happens wherever they happen to be at that moment. A truck stop, a rest area, a shipper's lot, sometimes a Walmart parking lot if the company policy and local signs permit it. The road determines the schedule, not a hotel reservation made 3 states back. The 14-hour window creates a reality most people have never thought about. If a driver's workday starts at 4 in the morning in Columbus, Ohio, the clock runs out at 6 in the evening, regardless of where they are. Maybe that's near a proper city with comfortable accommodation options. Maybe that's in the middle of Nevada with nothing but scrubland visible in every direction. The truck stop is what exists in both places. The sleeper berth works in both places. The hotel doesn't, but cost is also genuinely significant. And anyone who dismisses it isn't being honest about the economics of over-the-road trucking. A single night in a hotel along a major freight corridor, the kind of property that has enough parking to accommodate a 73-foot combination vehicle, can cost anywhere from $80 to $150, depending on the location and season. For a driver out on the road for 3 weeks at a time, that's potentially $2,000 a month in accommodation costs alone, before food, fuel, truck maintenance, or any other expenses. Owner-operators, independent drivers who own their own equipment, and essentially run their own small business. Feel every one of those dollars directly. Even company drivers who get reimbursed for certain expenses quickly learn that hotel stays introduce friction, consume time, and often leave them less rested than the alternative. Because here's something that surprises most people. The best sleeper cabs are genuinely comfortable. The regulatory minimum for a legal sleeper berth in the United States requires the space to be at least 75 inches long, 24 inches wide, and at least 24 inches of vertical clearance from mattress to ceiling. But the trucks used by experienced long-haul drivers, the Freightliner Cascadias, the Kenworth T680s, the Peterbilt 579s, the Volvo VNLs that dominate the interstate system, carry sleeper compartments that far exceed those minimums. A full-size sleeper can be 60 inches wide with a queen-sized mattress. It will have built-in storage cabinets, a wardrobe space for hanging clothes, reading lights, multiple 12-volt and standard AC outlets, USB charging ports, and ambient lighting that drivers adjust to their preference. Many cabs carry a small refrigerator, a microwave, a coffee maker. Some carry a television. Some carry a small gaming console. Some drivers bring slow cookers and electric skillets. The pandemic years accelerated in-cab cooking dramatically as drivers learned how much money they could save and how much better they could eat by preparing their own food rather than relying entirely on truck stop restaurants. This is the part nobody talks about. The truck is not just transportation. For the over-the-road driver, it's a residence. And just like any residence, what it contains and how it functions reflects the person living inside it. But even the most perfectly outfitted cab creates a challenge that no amount of personal comfort can fully solve. And it's the challenge that defines the real hidden architecture of a truck driver's sleep. Temperature control. Think about what happens at a truck stop at 2 in the morning in July in Laredo, Texas. The temperature outside might still be 90 degrees after midnight. The pavement radiates heat. There's no breeze. A parked semi with its engine off becomes, within minutes, an oven. Drivers have historically solved this by idling their engine through the night, running the main powertrain just to feed the cab's air conditioning system. A Class 8 diesel engine at idle consumes somewhere between 0.6 of a gallon and 1.1 gallons of fuel per hour. Run that engine for 8 hours and you've burned 8 gallons of diesel. Fuel that costs real money and produces real emissions while the driver is just trying to sleep. Most states and many municipalities have responded to this with anti-idling laws. California leads the country with strict regulations limiting commercial vehicle idling to no more than 5 minutes in most circumstances. Texas, New York, Colorado, and dozens of other states have their own versions. The result is that drivers who rely purely on main engine idling find themselves navigating a complicated web of local ordinances that vary from county to county and city to city along any given route. The solution that's changed the industry is the Auxiliary Power Unit, or APU. An APU is essentially a small, self-contained generator mounted externally on the truck, usually visible as a compact housing just behind the cab. Diesel-powered APUs run on their own small engine, consuming roughly 0.2 of a gallon per hour instead of the main engine's full idle burn. Battery-powered electric APUs charge while the truck is moving and then discharge during rest periods, running the cab's HVAC system silently for anywhere from 8 to 11 hours, depending on ambient temperature and insulation quality. The underbunk cooling unit in a well-equipped electric APU can produce around 7,500 BTUs of cooling capacity, enough to maintain comfortable temperatures in the sleeper even during a Texas summer night. APUs cost between $8,000 and $12,000 to install. For a fleet, that investment pays back in fuel savings alone within about 2.5 years. For a driver, it means sleeping in a temperature-controlled environment without the legal exposure of running the main engine, without the fuel cost, and without the engine wear that comes from thousands of hours of unnecessary idling. When experienced drivers talk about the equipment that most defines quality of life on the road, the APU comes up in almost every conversation. But temperature is only part of the equation. There's another challenge that hotel guests never have to think about, and it connects directly to why so many drivers choose to stay in their trucks rather than leave them. The cargo. When a driver is assigned a load, they sign a document called a bill of lading. That piece of paper makes them legally responsible for what's in the trailer. The cargo might be electronics destined for a distribution center in Dallas. It might be pharmaceutical products. It might be refrigerated food on a temperature-controlled run. It might be anything from retail goods to industrial equipment. And the moment that driver's signature goes on the bill of lading, the accountability for that cargo travels with them. Cargo theft in the United States is not a minor problem. In the third quarter of 2024 alone, the freight security network CargoNet recorded over 770 cargo theft events across the United States and Canada, a 14% increase over the same period the prior year, with total losses exceeding $39 million in a single quarter. Thieves operate in sophisticated ways. Some follow trucks from distribution centers. Some operate at specific truck stops along known freight corridors. Some work quickly and quietly enough that a driver sleeping in the cab with an APU running might not hear a thing happening at the trailer doors behind them. This is the reality most people never consider. The truck driver sleeping in the parking lot isn't just resting. They are, in a very real sense, guarding the load. Presence matters. A truck with the lights of an APU running and a cab that appears occupied is a different target calculation than an empty vehicle sitting unattended while the driver sleeps 2 miles away in a hotel. Experienced drivers are acutely aware of this. They know which freight corridors carry higher theft risk. They know which truck stops have better lighting and camera coverage. They know to park with trailer doors facing other vehicles or a wall when possible. They carry their keys. They lock their doors. Some keep dogs. All of them know that the bill of lading made the contents of that trailer their responsibility, and proximity is the simplest form of security available. Then there's the question of shower and hygiene, which most people assume would be the decisive reason for staying in a hotel. The reality, again, is more developed than the assumption. Major truck stop chains, Pilot Flying J, Love's Travel Stops, Travel Centers of America, operate large, private, individually cleaned shower facilities along virtually every major freight corridor in the country. The system is more sophisticated than most people imagine. A driver who fuels 50 gallons or more at a Pilot Flying J location earns a shower credit through the chain's loyalty program. That credit can be redeemed at any other Pilot or Flying J location in the country, often within a week of earning it. Love's Travel Stops operates a similar program through their Connect Rewards app. Without credits, showers typically cost between $10 and $17, depending on the location. A private room with a locking door, a sink, fresh towels, soap, and shampoo at the major chains. Drivers who are on the road for weeks at a time build a routine around this system, planning fuel stops partly around earning those credits, scheduling showers into their days the way most people schedule other personal routines. Jubit's Truck Stop in Portland, Oregon, one of the legendary super truck stops of the American road, offers what amounts to a full-service facility. Restaurants, a movie theater, barber services, laundry, and a motel for when drivers want a real bed during a longer reset. This is the hidden reality of the American truck stop ecosystem. It isn't the grimy, desperate place that lives in the popular imagination. At the major facilities, it's a functional, deliberately designed community hub built entirely around the needs of people who live on the highway. Now consider the logistics of checking into a hotel. A 73-foot combination vehicle, tractor and trailer together, cannot park in a standard hotel lot. It can barely navigate the entrance to most of them. Finding a hotel that will accommodate a Class 8 truck typically means identifying a nearby truck stop or industrial lot, parking there, and then finding separate transportation to the hotel itself, then reversing the entire process in the morning. For a driver working within a 14-hour window where every minute counts, this is a friction cost that compounds badly. Time spent shuttling between a truck stop and a hotel is time not spent driving. not spent sleeping, not spent doing the thing that the schedule demands. Most experienced over-the-road drivers describe a kind of psychological adaptation that happens in the first months of serious long-haul work. The sleeper berth stops feeling like a small space and starts feeling like a known space, familiar in the way a bedroom is familiar, with everything exactly where it was left, lit the way you like it, at the temperature you chose, silent or filled with whatever sound you decided on before you closed your eyes. One driver with 37 years of experience, speaking on a forum used by working truckers, noted that in all of those years, he spent roughly 20 nights total in a motel, almost all of them when his truck was in a shop for repairs. The rest of the time, the cab was home, and the cab was enough. This points to something that gets missed in almost every conversation about the trucking life. The question isn't really why truck drivers don't stay in hotels. The question is what it means to build a functional, dignified life inside a space that moves. Because that's what the best long-haul drivers do. They don't suffer through the sleeper cab. They inhabit it. They bring the things that matter to them. They develop systems. They find the truck stops with the cleanest showers and the best food. They know which rest areas have the quietest nights and which have the worst lighting. They know the towns along the route where they can grab a decent meal without going too far from the truck. They have a CPAP machine plugged into the APU outlet if they need one for sleep apnea, a condition that's significantly more common in long-haul drivers than in the general population, and one that the APU's consistent power supply makes genuinely manageable on the road. They have the mattress topper they ordered online and had shipped to a truck stop that offers mail services for drivers, because the standard factory mattress in most new cabs is not what they choose. What the rest of the world sees from the highway, a row of dark trucks parked in a lot, silent at midnight, is actually a neighborhood. People are home. They have routines. They have preferences. They have systems that took years to develop and that they protect as carefully as anyone protects the rhythms of their domestic life. They are, in a very complete sense, at home. Just not in a building, in a machine, on a road. Somewhere between where the freight came from and where it's going. The next time you drive past a darkened truck stop at night and see those rows of parked semis, it might be worth pausing on that image for a moment. Inside each of those cabs is a person who has built a way of living that most people never see and rarely consider. They're not waiting. They're not suffering. They're sleeping in the home they carry with them, watching over the cargo they're responsible for, earning the rest the law requires before they can drive again. In the morning, long before most people are awake, they'll start the engine, check the tire pressure, inspect the trailer, and pull back onto the highway. And the thing that keeps the shelves full, the warehouses stocked, and the supply chain moving will continue because people who've decided that a cab is enough have made it more than enough. They've made it theirs. If you thought sleeping in a truck was the most unexpected part of this world, wait until you find out how professional drivers manage food, health, and human connection across weeks at a time on routes that sometimes pass through the most isolated stretches of road in North America. Because the hotel question is only the beginning.